Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, October 18th, 2021. It's 6:30 p.m. It's time for the Board of Selectmen, Highway and Sewer Commissioners meeting. First thing we always do is we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2 is the consent agenda. We have a couple of items there. We have the acceptance of minutes of September 13, executive session minutes of 9/13, and the minutes of the joint meeting with CIP, FAA, and Board of Selectmen from September 27th. We have an appointment for Jonathan Andrulevich to put him on the Economic Development Committee, with a term to expire June 30th, 2024. We have the Dudley PTO and Heather Bowes. She is back this year again to request to hold the Turkey Trot 5K road race on Thursday, November 25th, 2021, starting at the town beach. And lastly, Webster Dudley Veterans Council has a request to close the through traffic on West Main Street at 10:55 a.m. on Thursday, November 11th, 2021, for Veterans Day services at the Town Hall beginning at 11 a.m. Board members.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan.
to the administrator,
Jonathan.
if we approve, is it to approve and release executive, or is the first issue not done yet?
It's done, but I would,
Or release?
no, we can, in the interest of transparency, we'll release it, I think. That's the right thing to do.
Okay. That's it for me, Mr. Chair. That's all I had.
Okay.
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Johnson. We have a
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, just want to
Mr. Sullivan.
reemphasize the Turkey Trot 5K. That's a big fundraiser the PTO runs every year. You can run, walk, ride your bike, push your stroller. They're looking for as many people they can to get there Thanksgiving morning, November 25th, 2021.
Excellent. Any other? Okay, hearing none, call that to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Roll call
Unanimous.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. Mr. Joseph is on the phone. Mr. Joseph, could you identify yourself for the record?
Yep, Paul Joseph, Selectmen.
Thank you, Paul. Roll call vote, please.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous. And thank you to Jonathan Andrulevich for signing up for Economic Development Committee. Thank you, guys. All right, item 3, Town Administrator's Report. Jonathan.
Board members, good evening. A few months ago, we began discussing what would be some of the things that would be taking place after town meeting. One of those things that I know the board has had on their plate for about almost a year now is to form a committee and look for alternative ways to help offset the costs incurred with the water and sewer infrastructure project. See if there are any ways that we would be able to offset that cost being borne by the ratepayers as we struggle to meet regulatory requirements and so forth. So I've come up with I want to kind of get the board's reaction, gauge your reaction to a committee, a town administrators committee formed of the following people: 1 selectman, 1 water sewer commissioner, 1 FAA member, 2 citizens at large, 1 who's a public water user and 1 who's a private water user, the treasurer and the town administrator, both of whom would be non-voting members. Open suggestions, I just thought I'd throw that out to kind of gauge your reaction. My thought would be, after town meeting, we'll make the appointment effective November 1st. I can make the appointment, and we would work to get the report completed by January 23rd of 2023. I'm sorry, 22. 2023, everything should be on the ratepayers by then, so we want to see if there's any way that we could move forward with any sort of an offset. The goal would be to study and define financial impact to the ratepayers of the increased water sewer rates resulting from projects added in FY '21 and ongoing. Study alternatives to water ratepayers repaying the entire amount of the loan. Vote and present recommendations in ranked order to joint meeting of Water Sewer Commissioners, FAA, and Board of Selectmen prior to March 1st, 2022. So that's what I would suggest takes place. That's what I would suggest as a makeup of the committee. And I'm anxious to see what you guys think.
Okay. Board members, any feedback for Jonathan? I think it sounds good. It shows that we're cognizant of what might happen, and as we kind of figure this out, we'll try to get some good ideas from everybody. So, good idea, John.
Okay. Next on the list is the complete streets application that we talked about with the sidewalks along Mason Road. That application has been submitted. There will be a 3-month wait for us to receive approval. And the work toward advancing the design so that when the award is announced, we'll be ready to go. So we're not gonna waste any time in between waiting for the grant to be announced. We're gonna start work on that right away. And so I've also applied for a community compact grant, which is a program specifically, in this case, I've applied for HR best practices for human resources. And so we're seeking to fund a review of current human resource practices and staffing to make recommendations regarding best practices and potential for succession planning, which I think is very important and the town is desperately lacking. I want to do a review of existing policies for accuracy and recommend updated and/or new policies as required by federal and state law. We want to create a centralized policy handbook, preferably web-based, and provide a realistic short and long-range recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and eventually to the Personnel Board when we have gained sufficient enough volunteers to get that board up and running again to achieve those best practices. So leading up to the application, I've been discussing the and following up with our compensation plan and salary study with Michael Ward from UMass Boston's Edward J. Collins Center for Public Management about the type of consulting services that they'd recommend and potentially be able to provide to the town. And I asked him to provide a scope of services to use to help us secure grant funding. So that grant has been submitted, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to secure funding to continue the work that we've begun to get our human resources house in order. And don't want to jump the gun, but I think we can get a positive result with those grant funds. Our traffic study that was completed by Camden has been posted on the website, along with the proposed TIF plan for the Stevens Mill project, proposed TIF zone. Anything we need to vote on is up on the website. I know that the peer review has been ordered. I think we'll have an executive summary hopefully by this Friday. I don't think we're going to have it quite in time for the town meeting, but it doesn't matter because we need to remember that the traffic study, parking study, anything having to do with the larger development of that mill is talked about and negotiated during the special permitting process. So the town meeting is not the appropriate place to discuss that. It's the special permitting, which will follow in a few weeks afterwards. There'll be public hearings and the public will be invited to attend and have input and so forth.
Thanks. Just a note, are we also gonna publish that on our Facebook page, the mill stuff? It's on our website.
You're gonna be bombarded over the next week.
Okay, fantastic. Just want,
Mhm.
access to the information, that's all. Thank you. Jay?
You can do it via links or just post the documents.
We can link to the documents.
Probably best.
Drive everything back to the
Mhm.
website.
Yep. And the last thing is an update on recruitment. I'm sure the board's noticed that we've been trying to recruit volunteers and so forth. We've had a few vacancies. The position of assistant treasurer is filled. We're still on track, I think. Rich can probably speak to that later if there are questions about that. That's been filled. The The Planning, Highway, and Conservation combined position has been filled. She's been on the job for a little over a week. And over the course of the last few weeks, we've had a few appointments to the FAA, right, Michelle?
Yes, sir.
For the Personnel Board. And we have an additional letter of interest that we're gonna follow up on this week. There's someone who's interested in volunteering, but not sure how she would fit in, so we'll call her and see if, there's something that she's more interested in, one thing more than another, so
That's fantastic.
that's where we're at.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Anybody have any questions for Jonathan?
No?
Paul? No? Guys? All right, good job.
Motion to accept this report, Mr. Chair?
Motion by Mr. Sullivan,
Second.
second by Mr. Sigenovich. Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye. Unanimous. Thanks, guys. All right, item 4, citizens' comments, backed by popular demand. Is anybody here in the audience who would like to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chair, didn't we have a citizen reach out to us? I guess they're not making it in tonight?
She didn't.
Okay.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Item 5, under licenses and permits, Nichols College is requesting an outdoor entertainment license for Sunday, October 24th, 2021, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., located on the guest house lawn in Budley Hill area for an acoustic band.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan.
unless I'm missing it, how come it doesn't list the hours
I'll take care of it.
on the
2 to 8.
application?
2 to 8.
Is she
2 to
here?
8.
I see it on the agenda. I don't see
Small font.
Oh, on that,
Oh, I see it.
on the agenda, yeah.
Oh, I see it now, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, I see it, they must have did it online. It came a little smaller.
Give this to the chairman, please.
2 to 8.
Yep, 2 to 8. Thank you.
Anybody here from Nichols to present?
Well,
Oh, Heather will be here at 7:30 to talk about that stuff. Oh, so if we were still here, we can circle back.
I text her and just say.
That's okay. For this license as well?
Just, yes, she was gonna do that.
Okay.
You can probably delegate without objection to me,
Yeah,
and I can handle
I
that.
think so. I don't wanna hold things up. I mean, if all the ducks are in a row and the chief is aware, and it says on this that college administrators will be on hand to monitor noise levels, which is what we wanna hear. About 75 people expected. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I guess if our office is saying everything is dotted, and I usually ask the public safety people, Chief Wayne is not here, but Chief Kochanowski is, if they've all been notified or in favor of it.
This one has nothing to do with me, so.
Okay. You don't have a detail for this one, Chief?
What's that?
You don't have a detail for this one?
No.
Chair, make a motion to grant the request pending no hurdles that aren't met by the applicant that come up because they're not here to answer questions.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan,
Second.
second by Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Joseph. Can we add about, and then delegate it to the town administrator if there is something, maybe?
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, add that. If there's an issue that it can be handled by the town administrator,
Agreed.
he handles it.
Agreed.
Okay, agreed. All right, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, call that to a roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye. Unanimous, thank you. All right. Item 6, we have a public hearing tonight. Laurie Smith, our great town clerk, is here. She wants to discuss 2020 re-precincting plan to add one additional precinct voting district in Dudley. So effectively, we are at 3, and we'd have to go to 4. So Laurie is here, and I will open the public hearing at 6:52. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, good evening. Is it okay if I just give a brief overview of why we're doing this first, and then if there's any
Sure.
questions on it? Okay. So this came about because of the federal census that they do every 10 years. They have increased the population of Dudley according to their census up to 11,921. Based on that figure, they were looking at how many voters would be in each of our existing 3 precincts, and it would put us over 4,000 in 2 out of the 3. 4,000 is the cap. So what they're requiring us to do is add an additional precinct, so it will be 4 precincts. Basically, what they've done is taken mostly from precincts 1 and 2 to form this 4th precinct. Precinct 3 was our smallest precinct to begin with. There might be a couple people in that precinct that are moved over to precinct 4 just along the boundary line. So what I'm gonna be looking for tonight after the public hearing is done is for the Board of Selectmen to vote on the 4 precincts. And I have a document that needs to be signed and sent into the state. I do have a large map of what the 4 precincts are gonna be, if you're interested in looking at it either now or after. I have the small ones, but it's virtually useless. You can't read anything. So if you would like to see that now, I can bring that up to the board.
Yeah, it might be good to unroll and put the
Okay.
camera on it so people can see. Thank you,
table
Larry.
here is
Yep,
best.
right on the table. Fred can zoom in.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sullivan.
While Lori's unrolling it, Lori, I know we touched on it briefly at the last meeting. Do the new precincts mimic kind of what we were before with the 4 precincts?
I don't know what they were before, so I can't really answer this, but it's taken from precinct 1 and 2 mostly.
Right.
There's, like I said, a few from precinct 3, so it's gonna be in, it's gonna be in the Wayne Ave, Michael.
It has to be based on population, you can hold that like a parade.
But I don't know if we're gonna be close to the one before.
The other way.
Write it down.
Okay, this way.
Whichever way's best for the camera.
Chairman?
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, could Laurie, repeat the current total population in Dudley?
Sure.
This
Mark?
is according to the federal census,
Yes,
and it is 11,921.
almost 12,000.
Mm-hmm.
But still under 12,000.
So this new precinct, I don't know if people at home can see it on the screen, but it's going,
Big.
one of the boundaries is gonna be Lyons Road, up a portion of West Main Street, Elizabeth Street, and then it will go up to Wayne Ave, Dudley Oxford Road, and Potter Center Road. So that's gonna be the bulk of the new precinct.
The orange one is,
Yes.
okay. Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Joseph.
Could Laurie tell us what the increase is in the number of residents from the previous federal census?
11,390.
I didn't bring that information with me tonight, but it was under that because we had only the 3 precincts, and that was done 10 years ago, so I would be just guessing right now if I threw a number out. Sorry.
I think I remember that number. And it's
Do you?
I think it's 11,390.
11,690.
690.
Is from
It's close.
9 years ago?
Every grant I write, they ask me what the population is.
I think it's 390.
But that's from 9 years ago, Dean?
2010.
Yeah,
Okay.
One more question, Mr.
sure.
Chairman.
Absolutely, Mr. Joseph.
Does this increase have any impact on any other department? For example, state and federal requirements as far as veterans go?
I think the threshold, Mr. Chairman, is 12,000, so we're getting close.
Okay.
At which time we could regionalize with a full-time veterans agent or secure our own veterans agent full-time. Those are our 2 options once we've reached that 12,000 plus threshold.
That may be, Mr. Chairman, that may be something that the town administrator could research what we would do in preparation for such a situation if we had to have our own full-time. What that would consist of, what the cost would be, or any other ramifications on the town and the town budget.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have anything else for public hearing for the new precinct? Seeing none? Board members, any questions under the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, we're just gonna
Mr.
make sure we
Sullivan?
post that new setup on the
Yeah,
webpage and
webpage and Facebook.
link it.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Mr. Johnson said drive them back to the.
Yep.
to the
we're gonna
website.
also put them on the screens all over the building and so forth.
Oh,
so
great, that's great.
it'll come through.
Yeah, just so people don't show up, like, I mean, they'll have till what, the next town election probably. to-
Right. What we need to do is once, if you approve it tonight and you sign that letter, it goes out to the local election districts review commission. Once they approve it, then it becomes final. They'll give us additional copies of that large map. We'll have to post it in each of the 4 precincts. In addition, any voter that is being changed from one precinct to another will receive written notification from us.
All right, that's good. I have a question, Laurie, like,
Oh, yes.
where we have the elections set up, we have
Mhm.
one in a room and then 1, 2, and 3. Where do you think we'll put?
We're gonna try to keep it all in this building. We've got a couple different options. I'm gonna be working with the state elections division to make sure that we're in compliance with how big of a space we need for each precinct.
Okay, I would want to know that if I was,
Mhm.
oh, Jay.
Does that mean you need 2 more volunteers? as
It's
well?
gonna be more cost because we're gonna have to have another precinct, so we'll have to have, another check-in, check-out, another ballot box, someone waiting there.
I said volunteers.
No.
So if we
Extra.
keep it in this building, it will minimize those costs because we'll have 1 police officer, 1 warden. For the larger ones, I have the 3, but for a local election, I would only have 1 warden. Also, the automark for the handicapped, the accessible to do the ballots, we would have to have 2 of those if we went to a different location. So I think worst case, if we had to have it up in this room, it would work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? All right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:00 PM Eastern Time. Board members, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan?
grant the town clerk's request to add 1 additional precinct voting district pending approval of the local
Local election division review commission.
division review commission.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any other discussion?
Is that a paper?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Joseph?
Position?
Could I ask that a friendly amendment that would include that the town is aware of the additional costs associated with adding a 4th precinct, and that the town fund that additional cost as soon as necessary?
Stephen?
Do we need that verbiage? We'd have to do it anyway, right? Doesn't matter either way.
It'll work. We have the voting machine on the warrant in the form of a money transfer, so.
Paul, did you hear that?
No.
We have there's a warrant article to fund the 4th voting machine already.
We do have that already?
Yeah, on the warrant coming up.
Okay,
All right, so no,
great mind.
so no addition to the motion? Okay,
No.
all right, thank you. All right, so let's call that to a roll call vote, please.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Carrie Sigenovich,
John Marcy, aye. Unanimous. Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate that.
Do you have the form that was
All right, well, that'll come over here. Is it all of us are signing that one?
Either way, it's fine.
Oh, here it is.
Yes.
Oh, all right, we'll
Yeah.
pause for 1 minute to sign that. Before we move on. Okay. That is done. All set. All right, item 7, we're into old business now. 7A is Town Administrator Goals and Objectives for FY '22. Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, I've put draft copies in your folders. Based on our last conversation, we still need to set my goals for FY '22. I made a few tweaks to it. I sent it out to see if anybody had any input or so forth. So here we are. The first thing I have input into is I've adjusted the weight so that the floor goals actually add up to 100%.
Well, that's a good start.
But I've tried to make them a little bit more measurable, but I need the board's input at this point.
Okay. So do we still have the same buckets, Jay?
Yeah, we still have the same buckets.
Okay.
So the first one's typical of most years.
The town, basically the goal of maintaining a professional trust with the Board of Selectmen and town meeting. The following objectives have been established, right? 25%?
And then those bullet points would try to show what benchmarks would be hit in order to be successful in meeting that goal.
Okay. Anybody have any feedback, Jay?
So all those are obviously either happened or it didn't, right?
It either happened or it didn't, or it's explainable why it didn't.
That makes sense,
Town administrator got hit by a train and was unable to.
right? Anybody have any questions on that goal? Stephen?
I think I'm missing something with the math, though. We haven't got to all of it. It's 25, 20, 20, 25. That's the math.
No, 20.
First one says 25.
Adds up to
95.
No, that's what I meant by adjusting the weights.
Oh, you have to.
I noticed that myself and just,
Oh, I thought you said
Made
you,
that
sorry,
correction.
I thought it was, got it. All right, so the second goal is with the goal of successfully managing the flow of information that is relevant and important to the Board of Selectmen, and information that is irrelevant, unactionable, and inappropriate is handled below the Board of Selectmen level. The following objectives have been established. 20%.
all those weights are subject to your adjustment as well, in terms of importance.
Yeah,
Well, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan,
the bullet points aren't in rank of preference, it's just
in mass,
sleeves that would fall into that
right?
Right.
category.
Yep, these things are his goal. That goal is those 5 bullets, as he's proposing.
And anything else that we may,
And anything else we would
we
add,
want
correct?
to add during like comments. and
Yep.
Review, because you're gonna do like a mid-year review of them, right, one?
Yep,
Tell you how it works.
Right, so what we would do tonight is get a clean copy with the weights adjusted and any changes you might make. And we would sign Part A, which means that we've discussed and agreed upon the goals and objectives. Part B would be done sometime in December, January, to see where I stood. And then the final rating would come just before the end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Ruda, on the second goal, wait, just Scrivener's error below. Second line, spelled wrong.
Which one are we on?
Goal number 2,
Handle B,
elbow. All right, so goal number 3 is fiscal management. Can you put like titles on these, what they actually are versus a sentence, just like a quick, like, just like the bold version? Kind of like you have fiscal management, whatever those first 2 goals are their headline. With the goal of successfully establishing, developing, and managing the town's budgeting processes, the following performance objectives have been established. Okay. Do we have any questions on that one? I mean, you gave yourself enough flexibility to account for things that we don't know yet, unforeseen, so that's good. Kind of have to. All right, and then the fourth goal, 20% weight, it's fiscal year 22 revenues derived from other sources. Right, we like with the goal of establishing other sources of funding outside of local taxation. That is music to everybody's ears, I'm sure. The following performance objectives have been established. Let's read those.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Johnson.
I know you mentioned that you might have something that's more measurable. So I don't see anything that's measurable.
On which one?
Anything.
Okay. I think the measurement was yes or no, I think is what we said at the first one. That's why I asked on the tricky. Do you have anything? I didn't mean to speak for you, Jonathan, but
Well, if you set a number to it, you could do that.
okay.
I mean,
I don't know.
if the number's $100, I think we'll be
Yeah,
good.
I've got a suggestion. No, So,
That's right.
we all know the budgets are slowly creeping up, right? You want to manage that the best you can. Is it a fair comment to say that we should measure and improve the funding outside of the local tax base and improve that by 5% increase as compared to, let's call it a 3-year moving average of previous years?
Do we know those numbers? Like, how would we find that?
A pessimist in me says we don't measure anything, so.
No, I'm just asking a question.
I think I'm, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Sullivan.
I agree with Kerry. I think, because when Jay said it, I was thinking the same thing. Would the language read something to the effect of, with a stated goal of anticipating 5%? You know, somehow phrase it, make it a benchmark to reach. And
Yeah,
if
that's
it
what I'm
doesn't
saying.
get it, yeah, I
Something
mean,
fair, but not,
right, not
you know,
overburdensome. You know what I mean? Try to put something, put a floor at least.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Everybody knows the Red Sox are on tonight, so I don't want to stir this up too much. There's a few things. The budget's not a true number. There's too many things, too many variables that are in there. I know for a fact Worcester Regional is going to go up by more than 10%. Doesn't matter what I do, what Mr. Ruda does. It's an actuarial valuation. If you want to go into something like what the tax rate is, it's roughly a $14 million revenue source. So if you were going, you said 5%, the first thing I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, 10% is 1.4 million, half of that is 700,000. That's 5%. I won't make any commentary left, right, up, or down. But you sort of seem to be thinking a budget. If you wanted a number to compare, maybe you look down somewhere in comparison to what, if you got a $14 million levy, you have 2.5, you have new growth, something like that. So if you wanted something measurable outside of this meeting, you'd be able to go through and be able to come up with a hard number. Everybody knows Prop 2.5, you're always moving up. You would, of course, net out everything that was debt excluded or the override, so.
Thank you, Jay.
so the comment that I was looking at was the first section of that was payments or agreements that are not derived from the local tax base. Would we have record of those items not funded by the local tax base year on year?
sure.
So,
Because to me, that's, we're going after the grant money
Right.
and we have a goal for it. It's like, we don't want just last year's, we want 5% more than last year.
so let me, so
Mr.
here's,
Ruda.
and believe me, I'm following both conversations, but here's why every fiber in my body is saying, yep, you got a point, that's how we should do it. But then I'm saying, we got $1.4 million in ARPA funds this year. I'm gonna be behind the 8 ball next year when we don't get $1.4 million in ARPA funds.
We have a whole.
That's why I said a 3-year moving average, or a 5-year moving average.
We still might be behind it.
That-
I mean, over the course of the last 2 years, we've received over $2 million in CARE Act money, federal funding, FEMA reimbursement, that sort of thing, which is
Just
way
take out,
beyond something I could,
take out any grant monies brought in by the coronavirus, whatever that number is, 5% a year. Does that sound reasonable?
Would
Because
that take out the exceptions you're worried about?
it would take those out.
there is, because that's not in his control. That was a one-time.
That's a
event.
one-time.
But I agree with you. Let's,
That's what I'm saying, you wanna measure what's in your control.
Yeah.
And then make it an improvement process, right?
Mr. Sullivan.
So I think, Mr. Chair, I think we're all circling the problem. If somehow administrator with the treasurer, with the accountant can collate that 3 years' worth of data, and we can sift through it, and like Kerry said, remove ARPA funds, stuff that we know are not recurring. You know, it's like the fire chief, he gives us reports every month, every year. Some of his grants are competitive, repeat, you have to reapply all the time. Some are one-shot deals. So if we can get a list, like 3-year target, I think it'd be excellent. And then Kerry's suggestion, we can go through and say, all right, ARPA doesn't count. You know, I mean, I'm not sure how these got funded through government money. I mean, that wouldn't be something we'd hold you to every year. We can come up with a number. Say it's 1.4 million on the ARPA, just to make up a number, say it's 2 million total. We might call out 1.6 of it that's not recurring, and then we can have a floor at least to shoot for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, Mr. Chairman, that spring to mind that I could certainly, I'm not worried about getting more. But there are also things like host community agreements that I clearly had a really good hand in. But we know in 5 years, it could all change. So,
We get to review this every year, though.
Every year, yeah.
all right,
Could take it out.
all righty.
So do you wanna word that in a way where we can agree to add while he makes a document changes?
Yeah, give me a minute.
While you're thinking of how to write that. Mr. Joseph, any other feedback?
No.
Okay, thanks. You-
I mean, Mr. Chair, just while he's doing
Mr.
it,
Sullivan?
there's a lot of, ambiguity is probably the wrong word, but there's like, for example, I want to throw in here, one of them is, execute the intent of the board policy faithfully in a manner consistent with the intent. I mean, that's ambiguous, but it's specific enough. So how do we measure, I guess, the intent? Yeah, it's the language, I guess. I'm just saying, there's some ambiguity there, but there's also enough, I think, on these other ones, where the administrator will definitely know the path we want him to take when it comes to numbers and stuff. We need some kind of
Yeah.
backup documentation.
No, I agree on that, on the stuff Jay's writing, like, how we should add it, but if you think about, like, core functions of the town administrator
Right.
Yeah.
role, that's what those are, in my
Right.
book.
Those are good.
Yeah, those are good.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have any
I mean,
issues.
there's no way to measure it except if somebody complains and says, it didn't work.
Oh, yeah, you were supposed to do this and you didn't,
Right.
right?
But those are on like a sliding scale, right? It's like,
It's a little subjective, but
subjective, but, you got a year of,
But you're not gonna make everybody happy that we all have learned.
JDO,
So what was the other exclusion? COVID, or was it, how did you word it?
ARPA funds, CARES Act,
COVID-related
et cetera,
funding.
code-related.
Coronavirus
COVID, let me
related,
just try, COVID related?
non-recurring COVID related.
Just put non-recurring sources of revenue. How about that?
Talk about ambiguity and things that are related, the way the money's coming up, being shoveled out the window right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I, see if this makes sense. The TA will measure and improve funding payments or agreements that are not derived from the local tax base, excluding non-recurring COVID.
Revenue.
Revenue.
Sources of revenue.
Sources.
I can see it
Sources of
from here.
revenue. So don't tie a percentage to it,
We're actually measuring and reporting on it then.
measuring and reporting on it.
I think that's acceptable. Jay,
That's acceptable.
you guys?
It's not, wouldn't be a huge burden on the town administrator or office to do such a thing?
Hasn't been so far, Mr. Johnson.
And I think it also sets up for like next year, once you have a number and you know how to report it, you can actually probably see the delta between year over year.
Yeah.
That's a good start, Jay, I think. I agree with him.
Yeah.
You guys okay with that? You wanna add that? Do you have that, Michelle?
No, could you repeat it and apologize?
Yeah,
Let me just fix that last word.
sure.
The TA will measure and improve funding payments or agreements that are not derived from the local tax
Oh, you're a gentleman.
base, excluding non-recurring COVID revenue.
Two yolks.
Like when you buy a peanut shell, sometimes it's 3 in there.
Okay,
We'll start with one graph.
one. A chart, I want a chart and a graph,
Yeah,
Jay.
is that gonna be a pie chart, line graph?
Okay, so do you want us to vote on this now? Because there's a couple of the other things you're fixing. You want us to finish? I'd like
Well, let's
to
make sure-
say yes to this tonight.
So the things that I'm gonna, well, we need to, because it's.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to kick this can on that.
You mentioned the spelling error, you wanted me to add titles, we've got the wording for the,
And the percentages.
and fix the percentages. Do we want, are the weights okay with the percentages?
Yeah,
You know what I mean by
yep, the right.
the
the-
importance of, if you
Yeah.
think one's more fluffy than the other, let's lower the rating on it?
No, they're pretty well balanced, right? There's tactical, there's, the, soft skills,
New project stuff.
project work,
Yep.
so it's a little bit of.
It's fair. Guys, do you agree?
Sure.
No?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, now, come on,
No, I do.
all right.
Just laughing at the terminologies.
Well, we know how, we do this
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying, you can tell it looks like a computer.
Well, you have a computer right there.
Oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, you got something going on. All right,
We're gonna have Webster
what's
Lake.
the, oh, nice. All right, so, what's the, go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Chair, first motion, make a motion that we change the weighted percentages to all reflect 25%.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan,
Second.
second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Steve
Roll
Sullivan,
call
aye.
vote?
Sorry, Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous. Next,
Chair, Make a
yes.
motion upon the completion of the questions that the board has concerning financial year-to-year income derived not from tax base. We can revisit the actual percentage that we're gonna add and any other comments between now and the next meeting to reflect the board's will.
No. Oh. Motion by Mr. Sullivan.
I don't think I understand what you're asking.
We're gonna wait for the numbers from, we can't add any language like 5%, for example. We're
No.
gonna wait till we get the numbers.
No, he's asking to actually report on those numbers.
Right,
So
so
it's good.
when we get the information, then
No,
we
part
can
of the process will be to get the
put it
information.
back in.
So the way I understand it, Mr. Chairman, is that if I come in next year and say I've increased it by
Yes,
15%,
that's how I took it to me.
then you'd rate that accordingly.
You get a gold
We need a,
star,
we need a
yes.
floor to start from.
We don't have a full.
That's what I'm saying, I said when we get the
It
information.
says measure and
we'll go
improve,
back.
so if you, whatever the current state is, as long as it's an improvement, we'll start with that.
So your motion.
From a
would-
3-year average?
I would like to see what the number is before we, if we're gonna put a language in, for example, of 5%, I'd like to see what the floor is before I vote on 5%.
I didn't put any percentage, just a
We didn't.
measure.
I'm saying, I said, for example, so well then what's the, what's the language then? It's just gonna say whatever, if he increases by 1%, that's gonna be considered successful?
Yeah.
All right.
Part of this is the process of understanding what it is.
Year
And-
one,
That's
year
why I wanna
one.
see
And then
I wanna see
reporting
the
out
3-year
against it
average.
throughout the year.
Right, but I wanna see the 3-year average before I block myself, or that's what a negotiation's for. I mean, he have a
Yeah,
different,
it's just the beginning of the conversation too, because if we come up and there's all kinds of one-time stuff, non-recurring revenues that we take out, and then we look at what it really is. It's more about the conversation and less about the nailing something to the wall.
Right.
so, all right, so we're not gonna make any other changes until we get the numbers.
I would say you could just put the language in.
Mhm. As he
Well,
wrote.
then let somebody else make a motion, because mine died.
Make a motion to add the language to section 4. The TA will measure and approve funding payments or agreements that are not derived from the local tax base, excluding non-recurring COVID revenues.
Motion by Mr. Johnson,
Second.
second by Mr. Sigenovich. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye. 4-1, Michelle. Okay, and what about the overall, based on all these changes, we probably need an overall approval of his goals.
Make a motion to accept the town administrator's recommendation for employee performance review form for fiscal year 2022 with the edits noted in the previous 2 motions.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, nay.
John Marcy, aye. 4-0-1. Okay. Thank you. All right, under old business, 7B, we're gonna
Mr.
review.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Ruda.
I would have no problem if the board wanted to move to 7C, and we'll do B after that.
7C, hold on. Oh, okay, so,
The highway superintendent's gonna speak on that for a few minutes.
all right, so 7C, we're looking to get permission for Ramco Construction to construct sidewalks on Fish Road. Jeff?
So basically, what this would do is add a sidewalk to the existing Fish Road, to the, where the cul-de-sac would be per their design. Because of the lack of drainage there, essentially what they would do is extend the roadway, or the width of the roadway, on the shoulder, within the town's layout, and then stripe the area so that the runoff would continue to run off over into the existing drainage ditch. So basically, I'm asking, what they're asking for is the permission to add this to there without any amendment to their design. It would simply add an area where there would be sidewalks. It's about, I believe it's about roughly 300 feet or so.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Board members?
Yeah, so
Mr.
that's-
Sullivan?
That's one side of Fish Road, Jeff?
One side of Fish Road. So on the,
The right,
on the side where the drainage ditch currently exists.
so it's on the right going down?
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, the intention would be not to add a berm. If you added a berm, elevated the sidewalk, it would increase the height of the slope. It would also impede the drainage, and there's no additional drainage or piping that would be added to the roadway per their design.
Okay, anybody else? Jay?
So this just goes through this process, it doesn't get seen by any other boards?
Yeah, I don't believe it requires any other. And this is more or less a formality, asking that the highway commissioners recognize that this would be added to the layout of the road.
I'm good.
Gary?
Jeff, you're good with this? It meets whatever
Yeah.
requirements you have and
Sure.
you're good
I
with
actually
it?
walked the roadway with Mr. Siganevich, or actually father and son.
Andrew Levitch.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I don't remember walking Fish Road.
I'm sorry.
That wouldn't
With
be unusual.
Mr. Dick and John Andrelevich. So they, again, there's nothing, nothing overly complicated. It fits within the town's layout.
Thank you. I just didn't wanna vote for something that you had an issue with.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I don't have any issue.
And Mr. Chair, this kind of came out of the discussion at a public hearing with the neighbors, residents.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to call out, is that, you know, if this gets the residents, you know, something that they were asking for, to go along with the project, so I think this is a good
Yeah,
idea.
listen to the
Yeah, I don't-
feedback.
Listen to
and
the
make an
feedback,
adjustment.
yeah, exactly.
Make an adjustment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to grant permission for Ramco Construction to construct the sidewalks on Fish Road.
Motion by Mr. Johnson.
Second.
By Mr. Sigenovich. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous. Thanks, Jeff. Good. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to see that cooperation. All right, let's go back to 7B. We're going to review Articles 19, 20, and 21 for the upcoming special town meeting, I think we call it, formerly known as the fall town meeting, and vote on recommended actions or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, there's a handout, I believe, in everyone's folder. It's at the top, it goes with the article. Revised version of proposed general bylaw amendment. Here's the heading on the top. Did I make it in?
This one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So at our joint meeting with the FAA, we've gone over all the articles except for 3. And as we've done that, we've sent this, the warrant off to town council. We have the required recommended action for the town meeting voters on the warrant that will be set out to the town, on the night of town meeting. And then in your packets, we have the motions that were drafted for us by town council, reviewed by town council, and those reflect what the FAA and the Board of Selectmen jointly recommended. So we still need to, so for 19, 20, and 21, we still need to just at least make the board aware of that, and my recommendations, and town council's review of those articles. So Article 19, and no planning board tonight, but that's okay. The planning board is sponsoring Article 19, which reads, and don't worry, I'm not gonna read Article 20, but Article 19, zoning map amendment, town refuge disposal district. See if the town will vote to amend the town of Dudley, Massachusetts official zoning map by modifying the existing town refuse disposal district to include the following town-owned properties: the entirety of the assessors map, 122 Lot 7, map 122 Lot 8, and a portion of assessors map 235 Lot 80 for a depth of 250 feet drawn parallel to the front lot line as shown on the map entitled Proposed TRD District Revision on the following page, or take any other action relative thereto. So, the situation, this is being sponsored by the planning board. The situation here is that we have a capped landfill, which has been capped for almost 2 decades, that is supposed to be in a town refuge disposal district, and the vast majority of it is, but it spills over onto other town lands. This is more of a housekeeping request to make the entire capped landfill fall into a town refuge disposal district. So they want to just change the lines to include the entire town landfill. The part of the reason we're doing this is because the solar project from Amoresco requires that it fall into a town refuse disposal district, which is exactly where the capped landfill is mostly, but not entirely. And they want to be able to put a raise where we agreed and contracted them to put a raise. And in order to do that, the entire capped landfill has to fall into that district to take full advantage of the space available.
Makes sense. Mr. Seganavich?
Mr. Administrator, just to clarify, this isn't going beyond the existing capped landfill and the transfer station. There won't be a second or third dump in Dudley.
There's no, this is only going to include capped landfill, out of service decommissioned landfill area. There'll be no additional dump facility down there. You can't have a landfill anymore anyway, so.
I just want to throw that out there before the question got asked. Thank you.
Okay, next.
So my recommendation is to refer Article 19 to the planning board.
Makes sense.
And I'll say what I just said more eloquently. Article 20, I'm going to dispense with the reading, but this establishes it adopts the following language into town bylaws in compliance with 2016 stormwater management regulations that are regulated by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. It's erosion and control and sediment controls. This deals directly with our stormwater management. And this is going to bring us closer to being in compliance, well, for one thing, for the 2016 stormwater management regulations. We have no bylaw in place, we need one. So what this all says, essentially, is that when you disturb an acre or more of land, I'm looking at Jeff just in case I get it wrong, you disturb an acre or more of land, you're required to go to conservation and spell out what you're proposing for stormwater control. It goes through a complete site plan. They review that, the town engineer reviews it, they sign off on it, and it's enforced if it's not properly to control sediment, control runoff, control things that we've had happen over the last 3 or 4 months that have been, well, unregulated.
Right.
So the handout is because
There's a lot of yellow.
it went, yeah, it's nothing substantial, no substantial changes except, well, the biggest change is that it gives us the ability under, where is it? This went to town council review, and they added a few additional things to it than what the engineers had in it. It didn't make it in time to the warrant, so this is why we have a separate handout, because the warrant's already been posted. The biggest change with this is that it adds the town's ability to request a bond and establish a revolving account to make sure that bond has been satisfied. The previous version did not have that in it.
So, Jonathan, so this basically takes the state bylaw and customizes it for Dudley for all intents and purposes.
It customizes it for Dudley. The town engineer signed off on it. DEP has seen it. A private engineer has drafted it for us, and town council has signed off on it. So what I was referring to with the biggest change to this is on almost the second to the last page, 255-13 under security, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, blah, blah, blah. The commission may require the applicant to post a surety bond, cash, or other acceptable security before the start of any land disturbing activity. And we didn't have that in there, but council recommended that we do that.
Okay.
And so that's why we're gonna have this handout at town meeting, and the recommended motion will include, the motion will be by the Board of Selectmen to adopt it. And it would be a motion to approve the language as printed in the handout as opposed to in the article.
Do we let the planning board make that, or we?
No, that's us.
This is us,
That's
okay.
us.
All right. Okay, thank you. And 21? The seems familiar. Is this something?
Oh, 21. Okay, this is a landowner's petition. It's a landowner's petition to see if the town will vote to amend the town of Dudley zoning map by placing into marijuana cultivation overlay district the property owned by. The problem is that we don't have a marijuana cultivation overlay district currently. The recommended action is going to be by the planning board to refer back to the planning board for further study. Otherwise, it dies for 2 years. The problem with this was that we ran out of time to finish the work required to have a marijuana cultivation overlay district because we couldn't come to the terms with whose property was gonna be in that cultivation district. You can't have an overlay district without an anchor piece of property in it. And so, time expired before that was settled. And so it makes the marijuana cultivation overlay district non-existent, which makes this article unable to add someone's property into a non-existent district. So it's gotta be referred back to the planning board for further study.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, too, I mean, obviously, we'll have plenty of time. I noticed right away they're deleting the original article last spring. Parcels must be at least 15 acres. Whoever's proposing this, it's already deleted. I mean, I know the planning board was here that night, we had the joint meeting with them, and they were, at least the majority of them were adamant they wanted that size requirement. Because, I think it was Mr. Watrow, but one of them said, well, if we drop it from 15, someone's gonna wanna know, why can't I do 11? If we give someone 11, someone's gonna want it at 9. I think we need to have a firm number for parcel size, because otherwise we'll run into that problem where, well, why can't I have this? Why can't we amend that? So I wanna know why that, whoever deleted that, I don't know if that was a citizen's petition, but it's scribbling it out, so just, I mean, obviously, it's gonna hopefully get referred back, otherwise, as Mr. Ruda said, it gets defeated, it's 2 years. I mean, I could care less either way if it gets defeated or referred, but there's gotta be some tighter language than the way it's written right now, a lot tighter language. My opinion.
Yep, understood. Any feedback on those articles? It was a good discussion. None?
So maybe we just, that way we won't have to meet before town meeting on this. We've already had our recommended actions. We just need recommended actions for Articles 19, 20, and 21. So if the motion, for example, the motion for 21, it's an FAA, we don't have to worry about that.
Why, 'cause it's a citizen's petition?
Either one of us can, either the Board of Selectmen or the FAA can refer the article back to the petitioner, so if there's no objection to that, we'll leave it as is. Article 20, I'd like the board to adopt a recommendation to approve Article 20 as printed in the town meeting handout.
Okay. You guys listen, do you guys wanna?
So moved.
Well, Mr. Chair, are we voting individually, or, because I'd like to go on record as a board, at least call a vote for the board to go on record to recommend Article 21 to be passed over for further information.
Agreed.
I mean, if someone gets up and says, how did the selectmen feel?
All right, let's go one by one, just because, to go over, and so we don't have to do this before town meeting. Please.
Mr. Chair, make a motion, Board of Selectmen's recommended action for Article 19 be referred to the planning board.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan.
make a motion, the Board of Selectmen recommends Article 20 be approved as printed in the town meeting handout.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote,
Stephen
please.
Sullivan, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sullivan.
Make a motion, Article 21, citizens petition, landowners petition to be passed over for further information, referring to the planning board.
Motion,
Planning board.
motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Joseph. Any
Well, wait,
discussion?
wait.
Hang on.
I want to clarify, passed over, we're referring it back to, refer the article to the planning board? We're passing over for further information? Because one will kill it.
No, if it gets defeated, if it gets called to a vote and gets defeated, it's 2 years. But if we vote pass over, they can bring it up next year if the planning board tightens up the language, I believe.
So if we refer it back to the planning board for further study, that's
Yeah.
what,
Well, for
Town
further
council.
information, back to the planning board.
Okay.
That was my intent of my
Okay, that
motion.
was your intent, okay.
so I'm gonna write that as
For
refer,
further study.
Yeah.
refer back to the planning board for further study.
Okay.
If that's
Paul,
all right.
Paul, is that, you okay with the,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
okay. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Carrie Signata, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. So Jonathan, we're all ready for town meeting. That'll be our next scheduled event.
That's the next one.
All right. Fantastic. All right, item 8, board member comments. Mr. Joseph?
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
I'm okay as well.
Stephen?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to, again, congratulate the administrator. We brought on new people. He specifically mentioned tonight the new planning, conservation highway clerk. I strongly recommend anybody in town that wants to stop by and say hello. I've met her a couple times. She seems very nice. It's only been a little over a week, but said she enjoys it. Been a seamless fit so far, but on behalf of the board, welcome to the town of Dudley.
Thank you, Stephen. Jay?
Not this time.
Nothing tonight? Okay, and me? Just want to remind everybody, I've gotten a couple of messages that, about Halloween. Halloween is on Halloween this year from 5 to 7 p.m. And if we could get that out on Facebook, I think that'll be fantastic. Maybe out on the signboard as well, so people know. I think there are people starting to, it's coming into their window.
Sounds fine.
And that's,
Mention the Spooktacular.
oh, yeah, Michelle, can you?
We're having another meeting this week to wrap up everything.
Okay.
date would
Yeah,
be-
what's that, when's
On
it?
the 28th, excuse me, 4 to 7.
Great, so that's the Halloween Spooktacular for this year, and it's gonna be on October 28th from 4 to 8?
4 to 6 or 4 to 7?
4 to 6 or 4 to 7 p.m.?
We're tightening up everything.
Okay, we'll get back to you on the exact times, but that's the date. Jay?
I'd just like to mention, Joe Garagno has achieved Eagle Scout from Troop 273 almost 2 years ago, but he's finally going to celebrate it in public this coming weekend. So congratulations again to Joe.
Is it, we can bring him in here? I'd
Yeah,
like to
I'd
do
love
that.
to.
I'll bring him in here.
We gotta get some more information from
Yeah, we'll have a decree. We gotta get some more information on that, and then
Yeah.
we'll drag him in here.
Absolutely. I'm sure he'll love that. He's gonna be quiet.
Drag 'em.
All right, that's it. Thank you, guys. Item 9, Department Communications. Dean,
Oh, how about Heather?
Jeff. Oh, we have Heather Bose. She's hiding behind Dean. I can't see her. Heather, come on up. I think we voted on your stuff, but you're here. Everybody would love to hear from you.
Easy.
Hello.
Hi, Heather.
Do you want the turkey trot, Nichols? Which one do you want
We
first?
we voted yes on those, but you'd like to, if you want to tell everybody what, about the turkey trot.
The turkey trot's on Thanksgiving morning, 8 o'clock. Starts at the town beach, loops in and out of the roads off Mason Road. It's pretty brutal, lots of hills. We'd love anybody to come out, though, and get their exercise in before they get turkey. Benefits the PTO. We're cleaned up usually within half hour, 45 minutes after, so people can head out to the football game. And
Fantastic.
yes.
And then the Nichols outside event?
It's a Halloween pumpkin carving. They're having a guitar with a speaker from 3 to 6 on Sunday, the 24th.
Okay, that's the one we just voted on, right? That one?
Both of them.
Both of them, awesome.
So Heather, the turkey trot is walk, run, trot, push a stroller. do
Whatever you wanna do.
want, Right?
Skip.
Skip to your loo.
Take my car.
Jonathan's gonna drive.
You can do that too.
Well, I thought you meant skip, like not go, but
Oh,
still write a check.
No, skip.
Skip's busy that day.
Skip left town. Anybody have any other questions for Heather? Anything? Thanks,
Don't knock any
Heather.
more
Sorry,
chairs over.
I was late. It was my
What?
first class. I was afraid of missing something
No,
important.
that's all right.
All right.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Heather. Thank you. Dean, you're all set. Jeff, anything else?
So just a couple things. We're out, we have crews out that are cleaning up, doing some repairs from some of the storms that we've had earlier in the year. And some final paving projects that'll be completed within the next week or two, hopefully. And then also, just wanted to make the board aware that there's some grant opportunities that I'll be pursuing. There's a Compact Connector grant program, local bottleneck reduction program that seems like a couple of the areas in town might pertain to. So particularly down at Dippin' Donuts, these opportunities are $50,000 to $200,000 that's available through Mass DOT, and that submission doesn't require any type of engineering design, so there's no out-of-pocket expense for us to incur prior to that. And then there's also the next round of Safe Routes to Schools grant program that's coming up, and that opened last Friday on the 15th, continues through December 1st. So, and those opportunities are between $200,000 and $1.5 million. So, and again, those qualify for kindergarten through grade 8 schools within 2 miles of those. So, again, seems like there's several areas in town where that would apply, and seems to be some pretty good success with pursuing these at this time. So that's about it.
Thanks, Jeff. That's fantastic news. Anybody have anything for Jeff?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. George?
Blending is going well continually, so water quality is meeting the state standards. The new temporary treatment vessel should be rolling on in here sometime in November, maybe December, it's hard to say. We're preparing for that. The construction is going to be beginning at the station to mount that on a pad, reinforce the fencing around it, connect it to the well field, and hopefully we'll be getting that online, and that's going to help us immensely. Station number 1 continues to move forward with that program, and I'm getting anxious to try to test those wells to see what they can produce, see if we have to still do treatment there or what our situation is, but chances are we will still be running the main down to Station 6 in the future anyway, come next year. The sewer I&I project is going well, and the lining is going to be extended out to the Alton Drive area because I was concerned there was a lot of infiltration out in that area, and we want to see if we can button that all up. So I've gotten a grant extension on the SRF funding for that, so that's good. So we're going to be moving that whole area and trying to button everything up there. I'll also be working with Nichols College because there's some infiltration up in there that's been kind of severe, especially the last rainstorms we've had there. So I'm working with the crew up there, see if we can do some more cammering and investigation of what's causing that, especially when it's heavy rains. We're working very hard to keep those manholes continually plugged during the rainstorms down West Main Street. There will be a DEP investigation going on West Main Street where the pipe runs down towards Chase Ave, down to the sewer and out the sewer there. There's just different sizes. So they have to do, the DEP is going to require us now to do an investigative program to see what the story is, why it does back up that way too. So we're fighting two evils here. The department, we're looking at some grant for safety equipment and trenching boxes, something we never had, but the Department of Labor Standards is just around the corner. And they're going to be hitting all the small towns soon to investigate and see what, and they'll be doing it in a friendly way, but they're going to want to see you meet the requirements for safety and that. So that's coming down the pike now too. So we'll be working on that avenue there. So so far so good right now.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Anybody, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I had a question, and I don't know if it's to George or Jeff, but I sent a picture to Mr. Reuter and yourself, someone had sent me, George, across from 2 Jesse Road, there's a big piece of cast iron pipe. I don't know if that was from the water project.
It could, yeah, it probably was. I'll go check it out. It could have been from a old hydrant, or a piece that they had cut off and they forgot or got
Yeah,
pushed
it's
off the
kinda
side.
sit- You can't miss it. It's a
Yeah,
couple feet off the road.
I'm glad you brought it up, Steve. Mason Road is wrapped up. Of course, you'll know next year they'll be doing the final paving, but that'll depend on the sidewalk project that's coming up too. That could delay some of that, but that's by design, because they want to put a sidewalk in. By all means, go ahead and do it. They're hitting a punch list right now on trying to make sure they got everything that needs to be finished up, touched up, whatever. So if there's anybody on the street that has a concern, give us a call, and we'll go back and see if there's something we can, something they missed. But everything will be finished off next year anyway, so everything will be topped off. Whatever people have a problem, we'll try to address it. But by now, wintertime is coming, so it's better to wait anyway and get everything done for springtime and that. So.
One more quick one, George.
Hey, Jay.
Did you guys, was you guys that replaced the berm in front of the hydrant at 44 Mason and Meadow? Piece of berm was out, has that been replaced?
I believe it was
Yeah,
replaced.
Did you
yeah.
guys do that, or the contract?
Contractor did
Okay.
that, yeah.
I know the homeowner was worried about that.
Yeah, no, they get, all those berms where the hydrants and things going in or got broken up, they took care of it. And like I said, if there's something they missed, and that's always a possibility, we can even do it ourselves if we had to, just, to make one there before the rains come in and all that.
All right, thanks, George.
Okay, thank you, George. Richard?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Of course, I have to lead off with the best. November 1st, tax bills are due. Wah, 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 yeah.
You're the best messenger for that.
Yeah, really, there's a voodoo doll somewhere and they're getting it. So you start with the negative and then you work towards the positive. The next negative is going to be all the unpaids from 21 have had those pink bills gone out. I hear the F word on a regular basis. Those are going to hit the newspapers shortly. I don't have an edit yet, but it's a matter of time before those go in. The MCTA was going to have their staff school in Dudley, September, for 2 Wednesdays. Uncertainty on COVID had us put those on hold. Fingers crossed at some point in January, maybe February, we can get 2 weekdays to go through, and it's staff school. There's treasurers and assistants who go to the annual school, get their certification. There's staff, like the town administrator mentioned, there's people who don't officially have a title or have just started. We get them in, sort of lay out some basics. Obviously, you realize getting taught by someone other than your boss sometimes is a little more effective. Also, it's a best practices. And on a positive note, Hampshire Council of Governments Insurance Trust. Everybody knows right now, if you watch TV, Medicare open enrollment is right now, going until end of November sometime. I don't want to give you the wrong time. So the executive committee, as well as the insurance advisory committee, voted a 0 increase. So that's a good thing. As much as it's only $327 gross, we pay our 70% as to the retirees. A 0 this year obviously means good things going forward, so that's a good thing. And then on a really positive note, reelected to the executive committee for the Hampshire Council of Governments Insurance Trust. So it's good to be a little closer to what's going on there as far as planning and what have you, and sort of know how things are going. I've rambled enough. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Rich. Congratulations on that. It's good to have you there. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Sigonarich, would you like to adjourn and lead us into executive?
Absolutely. I'd like to make a motion that we move into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A6, for the purposes of considering the purchase, exchange, or value of real estate, Stevens Mill project, if such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, as has been determined by the chairman, and not to convene into open session.
Motion by Mr. Sigenovich.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Ian Sullivan, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye, unanimous.
Can we
Thank you,
call
every-
Paul back in like 10
Yeah, Paul, we'll call you back. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks.
Yep.
minutes?